Okay, the chair will call, case number 007045, 1 Wood Street. Anyone here wish to be heard on this matter?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, for the record, Attorney Sean Hope, legal law office in Cambridge. I'm here tonight with the petitioners, Ashley and Robert Woods, and also project architect Maggie Bowes of Smart Architecture. This is a continuing case that started back in July, requesting a variance application to have a rear addition to an existing single family. After the previous hearing, we revised the plans to design a one-story, low-profile addition to the rear of the home. Just briefly to remind the board, back in July, the basis of our variance was to achieve 3 goals. One was for an additional bedroom that was in close proximity to the existing bedrooms, so it would have 2 small children, and they were a growing family in a 900-square-foot house that is extremely non-conforming. The second goal was interior access to the basement, and the third goal was a full bathroom above grade. In the revised petition at 1 story, we have abandoned the full bathroom, and the bedroom is now on the 1st floor, so the addition is the 3rd bedroom, and the interior access to the basement is within this addition. Just to summarize the reduction, the previous proposal was at 26 feet. We have reduced the height of the addition by 11 feet. So as you see in the plans, it's 14 feet 9 inches, so it's an 11-foot reduction. Also, the roof pitch is designed not to match the existing pitch. It's pretty steep, and that would have a higher addition. So we actually lowered the roof pitch sufficiently to have proper drainage, but to allow us what we call the minimum height.
Excuse me, sure. Interrupt. Can you hear if not come forward? Now, I want to make sure I know you're listening. And if you want Mr. Hope to repeat what he says, go ahead. Okay? I want to make sure they're sure of that.
So, adjust the roof pitch. Normally, you might match the pitch with the existing roof to the rear roof, but that would have had a higher height, so we actually adjusted the roof pitch. So it would have enough pitch that for adequate drainage, but lower than it need be. And also notice in the interior floor plans, we have a step down to the main house of approximately 6 inches into the rear addition. This was in the previous 2-story plan, but we decided to keep that because it allowed us as well to bring down the roof ridge to the 14 feet 9 inches. So these were all done because of the direct abutter 5 Wood Street. There was an issue with the 2-story addition, primarily that it blocked the light and air, and so we were able to achieve 2 of our 3 goals and for the basis of our hardship with this 1-story addition. I think we relayed last time that it was unfortunate that we had to have a second hearing, but it was clear that when we addressed the board that if we were able to create a low-profile addition and still satisfy our specific hardships, that would be, we believe, a reasonable compromise with the direct abutters. There's also a large tree that is in the rear yard. I don't know if you can see it from the front, but it's an extremely large tree and it blocks a lot of light and air. That's also going to come down as part of the proposal. So we believe between the 1-story addition and taking down the large tree in the rear, that's going to mitigate any what we believe a significant block of light and air to that 2nd-story window, which is really what the 2nd-story addition did. There was correspondence in the file. There was many statements made at the last hearing from the objecting abutters, and so we had a written response to some of those. I believe a lot of those, while they were addressing concerns, weren't relevant to our hardship, so I don't want to go over those. I think that we hope what we put into the file was complete and answer those questions specifically. Those didn't, in our view, pertain to the nature of the hardship. Prior to this hearing, I did reach out to the direct abutters, the Jacksons, and they gracefully came and met to discuss these plans. When we met, it was only a week ago. They only had the dimension plans that the board has in file. When we met, I had sent them the plans previously, but they didn't have the full dimensions of the height. It was a cordial meeting. We exchanged views about how we got to this point, but because they didn't have those plans ahead of time, I'm not sure whether or not the low-profile addition, which we sought to accomplish, is something that they would
Find out.
approve or not approve of. So yeah, I don't, but I think, like the board to know that every effort was made to maintain and satisfy our hardships, as well as taking into account their issues about life. Yeah.
Unless there are questions from members of the board at this point, I'll open it to public testimony. Okay.
Sorry, maybe I can. So thank you for hearing us again. So we have, I just want to make clear that we have taken great pain and greatly feel it's our responsibility to take all of the suggestions from the neighbors, any neighbors, especially the Jacksons, very seriously. And we have, over the past 9 or so months of this discussions, taken everything that they've said and painstakingly go into every detail of every suggestion that they may have in terms of consulting with our architect for feasibility, Attorney Hope for any sort of variance or ordinance regulations, with potential builders, with members of a former producer of this old house. We trusted members of the community. We really sort of vetted these as thoroughly as we possibly can. And the result, as you see in front of you, is what we've come up with as what we think is by far the most viable solution. So, for example, there has been suggestions by the Jacksons of adding to the height of the building, and it's been explained several times, and I don't need to go over it too much, but 125-year-old foundation simply won't support that, nor will it achieve our goals that Attorney Hope had said. So we considered that. We worked with Ms. Bose to try to assess the feasibility of this and others. In the end, it would have been more feasible to basically knock the place down and start over and build something else on the lot. While it may be technically feasible to do so, there's also financial constraints that come in that we don't. At that point, we might as well. If we had enough money to do that, then we just go out and buy the house. Similarly, for suggestions that were made about building out to the front of the house, which is where the public, where the public sees the front face of the house. It's a historic house. It's a nice looking house that would basically ruin the aesthetic and again not achieve the goals that we had. I won't go into all of these details, but basically the point that I want to make clear is that we've really taken it to heart. It's been weighing really heavily on us over the past 9 months. It's both emotionally and financially, and the solution that we come up with. Unfortunately, in the letter that Mr. Jackman and Janice Jackman submitted, dated October 24th, suggested a low-profile single-story addition. And so I'm optimistic that that they will now support this, since this is it seems to be in agreement with what they've been asking. So again, we're not trying to put up a high-rise. We are not motivated by land grab or space or anything like that. We are simply a family that loves the house, loves the neighborhood, loves to stay in Cambridge, and loves to grow in place. Thank you.
Unless there are questions from members of the board at this point, I'm going to open the matter to public testimony. Not? Okay, and then open the matter up to public testimony. Anyone wishing to be heard on this matter?
We do. Is there anyone else?
Sure. Sir?
Yes.
Do you want to be heard?
Sure.
Yeah, you get a little closer if you would. Give your name and address to the stenographer.
Doug Brown, 35 Standish Street. I'm here tonight to speak in favor of the application. Firstly, because Ashley and Rob are good friends and also good people. Exactly the type of folks that we should encourage to stay in Cambridge. I realize that has little bearing on the details of a variance application. Regardless, it's worth noting that Cambridge clearly has a problem retaining young families who on the one hand can't afford to trade up to a larger home in a nicer neighborhood, but have also clearly outgrown the confines of luxury studio and one-bedroom micro units that are currently being constructed. Even if the Woods wanted to move, which they don't, there are simply no appropriate homes available to buy. At last check, there were 10 single-family homes available for sale in Cambridge with 3 or more bedrooms. Those have an average list price of $2.48 million and an average size of 3,400 square feet, twice the size of the Woods proposal. Only 3 homes in the city are listed at less than 2,000 feet. One is a 500-foot home, one is a condo, and one is located in East Cambridge, well away from their current home. Secondly, I'm also here as a former owner of this house, as well as the person who restored it after 40 years of neglect by the prior owners. As such, I believe I can speak to the issue of what is and isn't appropriate for it, as well as provide a better understanding of what it's like to actually live in a house this small. Regarding the proposed design, I find it well in keeping with the home's historic nature. It's the smallest house on the street, and afterwards it will still remain the smallest house on the street. But having lived in the house for 7 years and painstakingly restored each and every feature of the home, from its stained glass windows that were drywalled over and its mahogany newel posts rescued from a dumpster, from its pine floors located under carpet and asbestos tile, in case of just such an eventuality, it seems convenient, having secured that agreement, that they might object to this addition now. By approving the Woods request, you would simply be restoring those existing rear additions, though admittedly with a slightly larger footprint in keeping with modern standards. Next, I'm here as a citizen who's concerned about the way this process has gone. In truth, I find it somewhat incomprehensible why a homeowner must endure such an ordeal. The Woods are not seeking a variance for FAR, they have plenty available. They're not seeking a variance for height, their design is well under the limit. In short, they're saddled with 2 problems, which represent hardship, neither of which is arguable. First, their lot is 28 feet wide, well below the 50-foot minimum. The result is that they've been forced to fit their available FAR, which is significant, into an incredibly narrow buildable area. With modern 2x6 construction, at some point there are only so many feet and so many inches that can be extracted out of a house before its design becomes awkward and bizarre. Second, because the original builder of the home built a modest house and subsequent owners never enlarged it, the Woods are forced to limit their plans to 25% of their home's original size, or else seek a variance to utilize their permitted FAR. Conversely, the much larger homes abutting the Woods, all of which have much higher FAR numbers, are allowed to add more space without triggering this requirement. In effect, the 25% rule is a penalty on small houses, when we should instead be encouraging just this type of reasonable expansion. In conclusion, I hope that you see fit to grant their application. I support their proposal both because they're friends, but more importantly because I believe it's the right thing to do. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for the comment.
Do you want that submitted in paper?
No, not necessarily. We have
Okay.
it for the transcript. Anyone else, besides the Jacks, anyone else wish to be heard on this matter? Apparently not.
We know Doug, that's our neighbor for several years. He does excellent work, and we've had a very good relationship with all of the neighbors on the street. We've been there for 68 years. After reviewing reading Robin Ashley Wood's letter for December 4, 2015, in response to my letter addressed to Chairman Alexander, stating my concerns and clarifications about this case dated October 24, 2015. One glaring point came to mind was into focus for me. Based on the Massachusetts general laws, the zoning section 10, and several land court rulings, for example, Carmine Sedona versus Winthrop Board of Appeals, April 17, 2012. In their filings, the Woods have not demonstrated a basis for a factual hardship. The key reasons that the Woods are claiming a substantial hardship is related to a change in their family, change in the expansion of the family. According to various rulings, the granting of variances must be based upon circumstances which directly affect the real estate, not the circumstances of personal hardships. Criteria for hardship relates to the land, not the applicant. Many rationales stated in the Woods application for variances could have been achieved without a variance. For example, as Doug had mentioned, there were choices whether or not to have the stairs inside or outside. There were choices in terms of putting a bathroom into the apartment. All of these were choices. The fact that they did not, the fact that they need another bedroom is also precipitated by a change in their personal circumstances, an increase in size of the family, not a factual hardship. The mere fact that they could not purchase a larger house is not a severe hardship. It relates to land, but is a statement of personal circumstances. I believe that there are several statements of sympathetic hardship, and I can understand that. I can appreciate that. But personal circumstances is not a justification for a factual hardship. You're asking us to make a decision on plans which still have negative impacts on our property, but in our opinion, is not justified by a factual hardship. Based on the supporting statements for the variance submitted by the board on May 21st, it would be helpful to us if we could hear articulated from the board factual justifications of the hardship. That would be
I tried to
helpful.
do that, by the way, so is there any further remarks?
Would you like to do that now, or?
Whatever your pleasure is, I'd be happy to do it now. You raised this question, what is the
Yes.
definition
Yes,
of,
absolutely.
legal definition
So
of
we can
substantial
understand.
hardship in your correspondence? And I'll try my best to get there. The requirement that a substantial hardship be demonstrated is a requirement of state law. Section, chapter 40A, section 10, I guess it is. It's not, so if this were a case arising in Somerville or Weston, or you would have the same issue, same standard to be met, substantial hardship. And hardship is not measured by simply mechanical standards. It's basically contextual in nature and relates to the property at hand. What constitutes a substantial hardship or not is on a case-by-case basis, looking at the property and the issues involved. The issue here, seems to me, is not, and you're also right, that if the people who currently occupy the property can't afford to buy another house or want another more living space, that's not enough to demonstrate a substantial hardship. The court's been very clear on that. On the other hand, what I'm hearing tonight and the nights before is a claim of hardship that would run to whoever owns this property, be it them, these folks here, or their successors. And that is the fact that we have a structure that's over 100 years old, that it is sited on the lot long before zoning, and it is a result of, it is now non-conforming to our zoning in terms of the setback, which is the issue before you. That the house itself is very small relative to typical one-family homes. So it makes it very hard for people families or even individuals to occupy the structure, particularly in this day and age when people are moving toward larger homes. So their claim of hardship, it seems to me, is not just we need more space. Whoever owns this property will need more space. And if you don't allow more space to be created, this property is going to deteriorate. And that's not in the best interest of the city of Cambridge. So I think that's the basis for this hardship. Now, whether we find they met that is another question. We haven't decided that yet. But that's the hardship. That's how the hardship works under our zoning ordinance, either for this case or any other case that we hear.
Okay, thank you very much. That was helpful for us understanding. Like I said, it's been, I'm trying to comprehend that over this entire case based on what law that great.
We tend to, and where this board is as guilty as anyone, focus on this specific, and when people seek variance, on the specific needs of the people in the property right then and there. But we have to take, and I think we mostly take, the longer look at this thing, look at it, but whoever owns the house, they need some modification, some zoning relief to permit continued occupation of the house and not to let it deteriorate.
We did meet with Sean,
Sure.
Attorney Hill. And we did have a cordial meeting. We talked about several issues. We did get a chance to see the actual dimensional heights, which was always our main concern. In general, we like the design. It does go towards mitigating some of the issues that we have, not all. The length of the addition has expanded by 4 feet. The height of the addition is approximately 1.5 stories versus my request of a single story. We would have liked to see that the roof line to be a little bit lower than it is, perhaps matching the roof line of the breezeway that they have already incorporated into the addition. And meeting that would be very favorable for us to give an acceptance for this.
So I'm sorry.
It would be very favorable for us to accept.
You accept it?
If some of these, if the Woods would consider having a roof line, a lower profile roof line. And that's based upon the drawings, it's based upon how it still impacts our house.
You think, just my question, some question as usual, a lower roof line, changing the pitch of the roof or lowering the roof level will make a significant impact on your project?
It's not only just the lighting, it's the visual. Right now, I can show you exactly what I'm talking about. The new addition, and this is a picture of the Woods house. The roof line right now hits just below these windows, which is much higher than the first floor. And this would also impact our house by, this would be the sight lines. All of the first floor is still going to be black, and up to the midpoint of the windows of the second floor are still going to be black. That does not currently exist, and that is a concern of ours. If something could be done to slightly improve on that, that would be greatly appreciated.
Can I just comment on a question I just want to make clear? You're saying that part of the hardship is because of the age of the house and the size of the house, and so if the Woods didn't get this variance, then somebody else in the future, is that what it's being based on?
Well, the problems that they're having with the house would be problems for whoever owns the house. And the question is whether we should perpetuate these problems by not granting relief, or whether we should allow some modifications to the structure to avoid these problems going forward.
Okay.
But do we have to deal with them now? Do we have to deal with them now for future?
Well, I mean, obviously the impact, should we grant relief based on these plans, the impact to you is immediate.
Right.
But we have to take a little bit of a longer view. And we certainly, from the earlier case on Union Street, we take neighbors' objections and concerns very seriously. But at the end of the day, it's not a matter of a vote by the neighborhood as to whether we'll allow it or not. We have to determine that the legal standard has been met. And that's what we try to do. We succeed, but we try to do.
My concern is, and why I brought it up, is because I believe when I was reading your notes, you had a similar situation. Is that okay to ask him?
He wants to answer, Mr. Sullivan talking?
Yes. You said you had a similar situation. You regret signing off on.
Well, it was a two-story addition, and I regret the second story.
And that was not done in the context of zoning relief too, right? It was just a matter of,
It did not require zoning relief.
so it's a little bit different than the situation you're in.
We don't think anything. Didn't get didn't dig too deeply into it, is really what I agreed not to. So anyhow. But that was a two-story addition.
I think the ball's been tossed back into your lap. You've heard what he said, they have requested.
So, a couple of factors. So, and as the board knows, hardship is a three-part test. We focused on the fact that there's a substantial hardship to the
I
petition.
mean, the variance is a
Excuse me,
three-part.
the variance is a three-part test.
Right.
I think we've expressed in writing and to the board the Woods' specific personal hardship that's substantial. And I think that is part of the requirement, and that is that they're a growing family and a house that's extremely non-conforming, and that without relief, they would not be able to do it. That's just one part. That's not the whole part.
I'd be careful, but where are you going with this?
No, I'm clarifying, because I do think the idea is it's not solely just their unique hardship. It's also the fact that this is an extremely non-conforming lot. It's non-conforming on three sides, because there is availability of square footage to build. But for the fact that it's non-conforming on all three sides, the only place that you could build, even the only place without a major variance, is to the rear yard. So I think we pointed out that is the size and the shape of the lot, and it's the fact that there is a pre-existing non-conforming structure thereon is the basis for, one, the location of where we're proposing.
That's the second condition.
That's right.
You meet that condition, I think, pretty
Right.
clearly.
I felt like it was characterized that our hardship was solely because of their personal circumstances and not also to do with the actual size and shape of the lot, which is part of the statute.
I'm not going to make this debate with you, but the hardship's got to stand on its own, and the hardship has got to run to the property. It's got to be a hardship not only to you folks or whoever owns the property now, but for whoever owns the property.
Right.
And it's a separate distinction, once you get by that, if you get by that, then you go to the second condition, which is the hardship results from the location of the lot.
I 100% agree with you. But what I'm saying is if they didn't have a substantial hardship to the petitioner itself, then we wouldn't get to the second part. So
That's right.
we brought that out, but that's not what we're standing on. It is also the size and shape of the lot. I think you've heard several times we have extremely narrow width. We distinctive for that from other single-family lots. So I just didn't want it to be characterized that our sole basis for the hardship was their personal circumstances. The lot and the structure do meet what we believe that satisfy the hardship. And the third element is also a detriment to the public good. I think we've been focusing on one vocal abutter who's opposing, but we actually have overwhelming neighborhood support who supported this addition. And they've also said too that some of the other options that they wouldn't support. So I think we need all of the three-party tests. I think the comments seem to focus on just the wood situation. I do think it's more than just that. It's that plus the other two that we satisfy.
But you haven't answered my question.
Sure.
What's your response to Ms. Bowles or your...
I'd like to take the second piece. So one, I think when we met with them, there was an opportunity between now and even on Monday.
I'm sorry, I mean...
Just cut to the
Yeah,
chase.
exactly.
Can you lower the piece that, you know,
Yeah, that's all I had.
request so it doesn't cut into the midway of the second
I-
floor windows or not?
Yeah.
I don't think so. I don't think it will make an appreciable difference. I mean, part of the reason why we can lower the roof height, there's a series of windows, existing windows there. In this little breezeway, we were able to lower this height because it's not functional living area, so it could be lower than the part that is the main bedroom area. We also dropped it 6 inches lower and recessed it so that we could have a functional living space.
So the answer is no.
The answer is no. I'm not saying, and I'm not saying that it's impossible. I don't think that it's an appreciable difference. I don't. To me, they haven't said what would the difference be between the lowest roof height and the addition. I'd also want to say too that we've shown several pictures where Mr. Jackman has shown a photo and said this is where it's going to show. There is no way to validate whether or not where this addition, now that it's been reduced to a low profile, what it's going to impact, how much light and air. I feel it's very hard to contest when someone shows a photo without having any of our buildings superimposed and making representations to the board that we actually can't argue with. So the idea that we would lower the addition any lower, that would make an appreciable difference, I can't see that. And I don't believe it. And we did look at that, and I think Mrs. Bowles, we actually lowered that piece in between because that was where we could.
Any questions from members of the board at this point? Anybody else want to speak before I close public testimony? I think we're ready to close public testimony. Okay. Now, one more discussion. Probably I can make a motion. We always make our motions to grant the relief, and then either it's voted up or down. You want to express any views, or you want me to make a motion?
I think I could vote in favor of this project. I think efforts have been made to, accommodate some of the objections of the neighbors, and they've had to sacrifice, some parts of what they wanted to accomplish in the renovation. So I think it's a good compromise.
I would agree.
Hearing nothing else, I'm going to make a motion. Is that okay? Or I don't want to cut anybody off if they wish to go on the record.
Good.
Okay. The chair moves that this board make the... I'm
Yes,
sorry.
I do. I just, I'm concerned. And this is not a technical concern, it's a neighborly concern. Prior to all of this, you guys were friendly and so on. It's stressful, I know, having everything go back and forth. Is 3 feet really worth ruining a friendship or a neighborly friendship? And on the other hand, I'm curious as to what it would look like for you inside after you lower that roof.
You want to address
What's the 3 feet that you're talking
Yeah,
about?
3 feet is
Oh,
flat.
well,
The
no.
3 feet is flat.
Okay, no, I'm actually looking from the window top of the second floor window down. How much ceiling height would you have if you lowered the roof line?
It's about a foot.
It's a foot. Is it real?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we didn't design an addition with a matching roof pitch, which from an architectural point of view would be both aesthetically desirable and practical. So we designed something with a lower, quite a lot lower, half the roof pitch, 6 and 12 instead of a 12 and 12 roof pitch. And in my opinion, that is about the limit of what you can do to really effectively drain and let snow fall off of a roof. I mean, every half inch of pitch helps to do that. So we brought it down substantially from what one might normally do, especially in this sort of context of an old building. And we feel that we've come to a compromise that is a compromise, both practically and aesthetically. And that's where we landed.
Okay, so this is all over 12 inches.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, I am going to make the motion. Before I do, I want to make a comment. I really want to do this sincerely. I want to congratulate you folks, and I want to congratulate you. You've made every effort to deal with your neighbor's objections. You've modified your plan several times. It's not what you wanted to do at the outset. And I think you've been reasonable, and you've been trying your best. By the same token, I applaud your courage. And it's not easy to fight your neighbor on something like this, particularly if we grant relief, you're going to have to live with them. And I think throughout your presentation was very cogent. It was very, rational. It was not usual. Sometimes we get people come down here and say, I don't want this because I don't want this. And that's what you've been doing. And I appreciate that as well. But now the rubber hits the road at this point. We've got to make a vote. Obviously, you haven't got a solution that everybody can buy into. So I'm going to make a motion, as I said, as we always do, to grant the variance, and we'll take a vote and see how it goes. The chair moves that with respect to the variances being sought, we make the following findings. That a literal enforcement of the provisions of the ordinance would involve a substantial hardship, financial or otherwise, to the petitioner. Such hardship being that the structure involved in the structure in question is over 100 years old, is non-conforming as to its location on the lot, is quite small by contemporary standards for single-family homes, and that for occupants of the structure, be they the current petitioners or otherwise, a reconfiguration of the interior space permitting access to the basement without having to go outside, and an additional ground floor bedroom is necessary and desirable and cannot be achieved if the provisions of the ordinance are literally enforced. Second finding is that the hardship is owing to the shape of the lot and the location of the structure of the lot. that this hardship is owing to, that this requirement is owing to the very narrow shape of the lot and the location of the structure on the lot, which effectively prohibits any modification to the external dimensions of the structure without zoning relief. And lastly, that relief may be granted without substantial detriment to the public good or nullifying or substantially derogating the intent or purposes of the ordinance. In this regard, the chair would note that the proposed relief has overwhelming, though not unanimous, support of neighbors, that the relief is modest in nature, involving setback relief on one side of the structure only, but will not violate our ordinance's FAR and density limits, and that it will satisfy one of the stated purposes of our zoning ordinance, namely to encourage housing for persons of all income levels and to encourage the most rational use of land throughout the city. So on the basis of these findings, the chair moves that we grant the variance being requested, to the second relief being sought after this, on the condition that the work proceed in accordance with plans submitted by the petitioner, prepared by Smart Architecture. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pages in length, each page of which has been initialed by the chair. All those in favor of granting the variance on this basis, please say aye. 5 in favor? 5 in favor, the variance has been granted. Yes, we have special permit. Everybody left. Hey, chance. Okay, with regard to the special permit that's being requested by the petitioner, such special permit relates to the installation of windows in a setback, that this board makes the following findings. That relief cannot be granted, the relocation of the windows cannot be done without the special permit as required. That traffic generated or patterns of access or egress resulting from the window relocation will not cause congestion, hazard, or substantial change in established neighborhood character. That the continued operation of or development of adjacent uses as permitted in the ordinance will not be adversely affected by the nature of what is proposed. That no nuisance or hazard will be created to the detriment of the health, safety, and or welfare of the occupants or the citizens of the city, and that what is being proposed will not impair the integrity of the district or adjoining district or otherwise derogate the intent and purpose of the ordinance. In this regard, so based on these findings, the chair moves we grant the special permit requested on the condition that the work proceed in accordance with the plans identified in connection with the variance we have just granted. All those in favor, please say aye. 5 in favor, the special permit granted. Thank you.